Some plants are performers. They climb fast, flower loudly, soak up attention like spotlights. Others are protectors, placed near doors, in wealth corners, under mirrors, guarding fortune, inviting prosperity, anchoring fame. But there is a rare kind of plant that does something quieter, deeper, and infinitely more necessary. It restores, it listens, it heals. The peace lily doesn't bloom to get noticed. It blooms to teach you how to let go of what's cluttered, of what's unclear, of what's been sitting inside your space or your body long past its time. And that is where we begin today. This is not an episode about maximizing luck or drawing in more. It's about creating room for what matters to stay. Because sometimes the most sacred shift in a home isn't addition, it's subtraction. In Feng Shui, the peace lily is a master of subtraction. It doesn't stir energy, it calms it. It doesn't chase ambition, it nurtures alignment. It doesn't wake a room up, it helps a room exhale. And if you've been feeling like your environment is heavy, distracted, brittle, or if your heart just hasn't had enough space to breathe lately, this episode is your invitation to reset. Because clarity doesn't always come through doing more. Sometimes it comes through stillness, through softness, through a quiet white blossom in the corner, quietly holding the emotions you haven't said aloud. Let's be honest. Most modern interiors are built for stimulation. Open plans, hard angles, bold tones, media walls, workspaces, screens. It's all outward energy. But very few people design for emotional oxygen. That's where Feng Shui comes in. It reminds us that a home isn't just for function, it's for frequency. And when the frequency of your space starts mirroring burnout instead of balance, the peace lily becomes less of a plant and more of a prescription. It enters your space not as decor, but as a remedy, one that doesn't rush your healing, doesn't demand your productivity, and doesn't ask for anything in return except your attention. That's the real medicine. And this is what makes the peace lily one of the most emotionally intelligent plants in Feng Shui. Its entire structure is symbolic. The white spathe represents a quiet mind, the kind that's not busy solving, but simply present. The long dark leaves absorb not just toxins in the air, but energetically, the noise that lingers after grief, confusion, or fatigue. It teaches you that not all beauty needs to climb, perform, or shout to be powerful. Some of the most powerful forces in life don't grow outward, they grow inward. So if you're watching this today because you're rebuilding after a loss, or trying to clear emotional weight that words haven't quite reached, or simply craving more room to feel again, this video is for you. We're going to walk through exactly how to use the peace lily as a true Feng Shui companion. We'll look at where to place it, what environments it heals best, how to work with it ritually, and the symbolic meaning behind the way it blooms. And we'll explore a real-life example of how one well-known public figure used this very plant to bring calm and coherence back into her life after a storm. Now, before we go deeper, I want to pause and ask something gentle of you. If this episode already speaks to something inside your home or your heart, I'd love for you to support this journey. Just by tapping the like button, leaving a thoughtful comment, or subscribing to this channel, New Day Mindfulness, you help grow something beyond algorithms. You help grow a community of people who don't just want more stuff in their space, they want more meaning. We're growing toward 2,000 subscribers, and every single one allows me to keep sharing grounded, non-hype Feng Shui insights that don't require you to believe in magic, just in resonance, care, and placement that honors where you are. Because that's what Feng Shui is ultimately about. Not performance, not superstition, but alignment. And the Peace Lily is a beautiful symbol of alignment in its purest form. It doesn't compete, it complements, it doesn't push, it softens. And in homes where too much has been said or too much has gone unsaid, this is the plant that offers quiet resolution, not through force, but through presence. So whether you're designing a new altar space or rethinking your living room, or just trying to soften the edges of your day when you come home from the noise outside, stay with me. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where your Peace Lily belongs, how to read its energy cues, what practices you can do to activate its support, and how to avoid the common mistakes that block its quiet work. But more than that, you'll walk away with a new way of seeing your space, not just as a place to live, but as a place that can live with you, support you, and grow with you through every cycle you enter. Let's begin not with the leaves, but with the message behind them. Because when a plant chooses to bloom only under the right conditions, and when it holds space in such quiet power, we owe it the same level of attention. This is not a lucky plant, it's a lesson, and you're about to learn what it's been waiting to show you. Energy, signature, and spiritual function. As some plants bring beauty, some bring symbolism, but this one brings release. The Peace Lily isn't here to excite your space or decorate your windowsill. It's here to undo what's been clenched, to untangle what's been silently knotted in the energy field of your home. It doesn't arrive with color or complexity. It arrives with a single white bloom and a quiet presence that says, let it soften, let it settle, let it go. Because in Feng Shui, not all plants invite energy in. Some are placed not to attract, but to dissolve. And the Peace Lily is one of the most refined, gentle dissolvers in the entire plant kingdom. Let's begin with its energetic essence. The Peace Lily, or spathiphyllum, carries yin energy. That means its field is inward, receptive, cooling. It doesn't push or spark. It listens, it absorbs. It mirrors the qualities that are most often forgotten in modern homes. Stillness, surrender, and softness. Look at its leaves, dark green, arched slightly downward, like a bow. They collect overactive thoughts. They draw in nervous frequencies, background tension, emotional static. Then there's the flower, white, quiet, never too many at once. Not a declaration of abundance, but an invitation into calm. That's not accidental. It is the botanical equivalent of a whispered truth. It doesn't perform. It purifies. In Feng Shui, the Peace Lily is considered one of the most powerful yin-aligned plants for emotional recalibration. Where many people place symbols of power and movement, like bamboo, ficus, or jade, the Peace Lily works in the opposite direction. It slows, it grounds, it reminds you that healing doesn't happen by doing more. It happens by honoring what needs to be laid down. Think of the Peace Lily not as a wealth attractor, but as a grief balancer, a burnout neutralizer, a transitional guide. In homes that feel overscheduled, overlit, or simply emotionally tired, this plant becomes the pause button. Not to stop life, but to remember how to breathe through it. Now let's talk symbolism. The Peace Lily's flower is not loud, it's humble. It doesn't shout, it's not flashy, and that humility is the key to its power. In spiritual symbolism, white represents the frequency of acceptance, not just purity, but the ability to allow, without resistance, without narrative. When a Peace Lily blooms, especially in a home recovering from grief or change, it signals that the space is finally safe enough to open. that the qi has stabilized enough to release. You can think of it as a living altar, not one for offering incense or prayers, but for offering silence, the kind of silence that says, you don't have to carry this anymore. In practical terms, you'll want to place this plant in homes that have endured loss, burnout, trauma, or long-term emotional pressure. Its job isn't to fix, it's to neutralize. It does this through energetic absorption. Unlike some other plants that amplify qi, the peace lily filters it, gently pulling excess yang energy, the kind that makes people snap, rush, or distract themselves, and bringing it into harmony with the space. That's why it's so often recommended for homes where the energy feels too loud, not just in volume, but in mood. Too many hard surfaces, too many arguments, too many emotional loops that haven't been completed. The peace lily helps complete them, not with confrontation, but with quiet closure. It's also particularly helpful in rooms that lack coherence. A space doesn't have to be messy to feel misaligned. You might have a room that looks beautiful but still feels tense, or a hallway that feels colder than the rest of the home. That's often a sign of scattered qi, energetic residue, or emotional remnants from past stress. This is where the peace lily steps in, not to add energy, but to realign it, to offer the kind of stillness that invites peace, not just as a feeling, but as a structure. In terms of placement, consider using the peace lily in relationship areas of your home, especially the southwest zone, which governs love, partnerships, and emotional intimacy in the Bagua map. It's also excellent in the center of the home, the Tai Chi area, where balance and health are centered. Another ideal location is near an altar or meditation space, not to energize it, but to deepen it. If your spiritual practice feels scattered, or if you've been struggling to sit with yourself, the peace lily anchors the space in soft, holding energy. But avoid placing it in kitchens, home gyms, or overly yang spaces. Its field is not made for stimulation. It thrives where the energy seeks quiet, not conquest. Let me pause for a moment here and offer something to you directly. If you've been carrying tension that doesn't belong to you, or grief that no one gave you time to process, or even just the invisible weight of doing too much for too long, this plant might not be a solution, but it is a witness. It's a gentle partner that says, we can stop now, we can soften, we can let the frequency of this home make room for your peace, not just your productivity. And if this message resonates even just a little, I'd love your help growing this work. A like, a comment, or a simple subscribe to this channel, New Day Mindfulness, helps me reach more people who aren't just decorating their homes, but learning to live in them with presence, clarity, and care. We're growing toward 2,000 subscribers, and each one helps bring this quiet form of wisdom into more modern spaces that desperately need to slow down and recenter. So now that you know the peace lily isn't here to perform, but to purify, stay with me as we go deeper. Next, we'll walk through how to place this plant with intention, which zones it can softly correct, and how to keep it energetically healthy, not just alive. Because this plant is not just a flower, it's a field, and when you learn how to tend it, it will quietly tend to you.
Ideal location. When we speak about placement in Feng Shui, we're not just talking about where a plant looks nice. We're identifying the places in your home that either need restoration or reinforcement. And with the peace lily, placement isn't about energizing movement. It's about creating stillness in the areas where you most need emotional reset. The southwest corner of your home is the first and most powerful place to begin. This is the zone that governs love, relationships, partnerships, and emotional anchoring. When this area is agitated, relationships feel strained, intimacy turns reactive, and unresolved conversations linger in the air. A peace lily placed here begins to quietly absorb those sharp edges. Its soft, receptive feel doesn't argue, it just balances. It doesn't erase conflict, but it dilutes the heat, giving you and the people you love space to recalibrate without having to explain everything. If there's been tension between partners, parents and children, or even unspoken heaviness between roommates, this placement gently clears the emotional static and makes room for clearer, calmer exchange. The second most sacred location for a peace lily is the center of the home, what classical feng shui refers to as the Tai Chi. Think of this as the heart of your house, not in architecture, but in energy. It's the point from which all balance flows. When the Tai Chi is blocked or neglected, you'll notice that problems seem to multiply in all directions. Confusion in decisions, low energy in relationships, friction in finances, lack of clarity in career. The peace lily doesn't rush in with high energy to fix this. It simply rests, it centers. It listens to the home and then asks, where did we stop breathing? Its effect is like a hand on your chest reminding you to exhale. And that simple gesture can be the most powerful realignment you make, not because something big changed, but because the energy stopped scattering. The third beautiful placement is near any kind of altar or meditation corner. Even if your spiritual practice is informal, even just a candle on a shelf or a few meaningful objects on a tray, the peace lily enhances the spiritual tone without performing. It doesn't amplify like incense or sparkle like crystals. It steadies, it aligns the space to become less about ceremony and more about sincerity. In these locations, the peace lily does what no object alone can do. It holds spiritual energy without projecting expectation. It's not there to deepen your practice. It's there to remind you that showing up to your practice quietly and consistently is enough. Now, let's speak just as clearly about where not to place it. The kitchen is perhaps the most common mistake. Fire energy dominates that space. Bright lights, high heat, sharp metal, fast movement. A peace lily in that kind of environment will not only struggle physically, but it will become energetically overwhelmed. What you'll notice are wilting leaves, pale color, or worse, energetic collapse. And in your own experience, that can show up as emotional short fuses, feeling burnt out during meals, or sensing tension in an area that should be nurturing. This is not where the peace lily belongs. Another misstep is placing it in high-traffic hallways or next to stairwells where people pass quickly and frequently. The peace lily is not a protector or a gatekeeper. It is not a plant that guards entry or wards off danger. It's a plant that guides. It holds space, and in order to do that, it needs stillness. Being bumped or brushed by shoulders, absorbing too much foot traffic vibration, or being constantly exposed to rushed energy diminishes its stabilizing field. You might still see green leaves, but the subtle harmony it's meant to offer will be blocked by too much interruption. Don't place it where energy moves fast. Place it where it can move deep. Also avoid placing the peace lily in full sunlight. While this might seem beneficial, especially if you're thinking about plant health from a botanical standpoint, the peace lily thrives best in diffused, softened light. Harsh sun not only damages the leaves, it symbolically overwhelms the plant's subtle field. This is a plant whose energy whispers. Blazing light makes it retreat. The metaphor here is powerful. Just because something grows in light doesn't mean it belongs in heat. You want to position the peace lily in corners that are touched by light, not flooded by it. A window that receives morning light filtered through sheer curtains, or a room that glows with ambient light rather than overhead glare. These are ideal. And for those who want to enhance the energy of the Peace Lily even further, consider using a round white ceramic planter. The roundness echoes flow. The white reflects purity and the release of emotional baggage. If you feel the space needs emotional softness, place a small piece of rose quartz at the base. This promotes forgiveness, gentleness, and loving intention. If clarity is the deeper goal, try amethyst instead. Its vibration supports conscious insight and mental quietude. You can also add a small bowl of water nearby, not for the plant, but for the room. In Feng Shui, bowls of still water act like spiritual mirrors. They amplify yin energy, calm excessive fire, and hold emotional clarity like a vessel. Remember, the Peace Lily is not designed to fix your home. It is meant to balance it. It doesn't respond to force. It responds to awareness. Where you place it reflects not only your decorative sense, but your emotional priorities. And if you place it with care, it will offer you something more powerful than aesthetic beauty. It will offer resonance. How MariaShrivever used the Peace Lily for her reinvention. In the quiet aftermath of personal upheaval, there comes a moment not of reinvention, but of reconnection. For MariaShrivever, that moment didn't begin with a headline or a public project. It began with space. And it wasn't a space curated to impress guests or broadcast recovery. It was a space designed to reclaim internal rhythm. Following her very public separation, she didn't seek out new labels or louder affirmations. She didn't fill her calendar with busyness or her home with achievement symbolism. Instead, she turned inward. And in the process of redesigning her home, particularly her bedroom and home office, Maria made a decision that to many might seem small. She placed a single mature peace lily in a corner beside a soft chair and a stack of handwritten letters from her children. This wasn't an aesthetic gesture. It wasn't staged for coverage or stylized to fit a mood board. It was intentional. She said in a quiet line in Architectural Digest, barely underlined in the article, that she didn't want energy that cheered her on. She wanted energy that reminded her to rest. That simple statement, buried between details about architecture and natural light, reveals a kind of wisdom most people skip. She didn't choose an orchid to symbolize resilience or a bright blooming plant to signal her next chapter. She chose a peace lily, low light, emotionally intuitive, unflashy, and in doing so, she sent a clear message to herself. Healing doesn't come through pushing forward harder. It comes through being willing to sit with what hurts until it softens. In Feng Shui, we often talk about plants that invite abundance, spark visibility, or hold the energy of upward career flow. But few plants do what the Peace Lily does. It neutralizes the weight of expectation. It absorbs the echo of noise. It creates room for a quieter truth to emerge. For Maria, that truth wasn't about rebuilding a public image. It was about finding a private presence. That plant, nestled near a reading nook, became her ally. Not as a showpiece, but as a silent witness. As she slowly returned to her writing, to advocacy, and to the contours of a new life path, the Peace Lily stood beside her, not pushing, not performing, but supporting in stillness. And this is the deeper lesson we rarely allow ourselves to embrace. That true reinvention doesn't come from a louder calendar or a sharper vision board. It comes from space that permits surrender, from rooms that allow your nervous system to breathe, from symbols like the Peace Lily that don't scream transformation, but quietly reinforce your permission to not perform. Shriver didn't need a plant to fix her grief or inspire her power. She needed a plant that reminded her she didn't have to carry it all at once. And in that corner of her home, with soft light and children's words nearby, the Peace Lily did what no to-do list ever could. It held grace without condition, mistakes to avoid, One of the most overlooked mistakes people make with the peace lily is overwatering. Not just in terms of plant care, but in symbolic energy. From a horticultural perspective, excess moisture leads to root rot, suffocation of the plant's breath, and ultimately a slow fading of its vitality. But in Feng Shui, water always carries meaning. Too much of it, especially when stagnant, represents emotional overflow. It signifies the kind of energy that comes not from clarity, but from clinging. If you find yourself topping off the vase day after day without pause, you might ask a more difficult question. Where in your life are you overextending yourself emotionally? Where have your boundaries softened into self-erasure? Because the peace lily is not a high-maintenance companion. It does not beg for attention, but it does require balance. Its drooping leaves aren't just cries for water. They're signals of imbalance, reminders to slow down and observe what's quietly becoming too much. Watering with care, not anxiety, is the energetic ritual it invites. Another common misstep lies in how light interacts with this plant. The peace lily is a yin-aligned presence. It flourishes in dim, filtered illumination, where soft shadows can stretch and calm can settle. When it's placed under harsh direct light, not only do its leaves burn and curl at the edges, but its energetic intention is disrupted. Think of it this way. Not all healing thrives in full view. Just as grief needs time and silence, and reflection requires space without scrutiny, this plant does its best work when gently lit, not spotlighted. In Feng Shui, excessive yang, too much fire, too much action, too much forward-pushing qi can agitate the nervous system of a home. And when you place a peace lily in this kind of overstimulating light, the plant becomes another casualty of that imbalance. It stops working as a filter and begins to absorb more than it can transmute. And just like we do when exposed too long to pressure or brightness, it begins to wither, not from weakness, but from overwhelm. Then there's the aesthetic mistake, the tendency to treat the peace lily like a stylish afterthought, a minimalist's finishing touch, a background prop in a carefully curated interior. But the peace lily isn't meant to be tucked away or used as filler. In energy work, form must follow function, and this plant's function is too sacred for casual placement. It doesn't just occupy space, it alters it. When you treat it like decor instead of design, its qi contracts. When you place it somewhere just because there was an empty patch of floor, it receives the message, you are just here to fill silence, and in return, it reflects that back into the space. Its leaves grow dull, its energy dims. The peace lily's true power emerges only when it's honored as a presence, not a placeholder. When it's given a role to play, a frequency to hold, whether that's near a prayer altar, beside a chair where difficult conversations happen, or in a space dedicated to quiet healing. And perhaps the most subtle yet most damaging mistake of all, surrounding the peace lily with energetic clutter. In Feng Shui, everything around an object affects its vibrational field. If your peace lily is crammed between a pile of unsorted mail, tangled cords, dusty books, or abandoned tech devices, it cannot do the work it was born to do. Clutter fractures qi. It creates friction instead of flow. And this plant, which exists to harmonize, becomes overwhelmed. Its message is one of clarity, simplicity, presence. It doesn't yell over noise. It withdraws from it. And if the area around your peace lily feels busy, rushed, or neglected, the plant will mirror that exact vibration. You'll find its leaves drooping more often, its white bloom hesitant to unfurl, its root system unstable. Feng Shui always teaches that space speaks even before we do. So ask yourself, is your peace lily sitting in a corner that honors stillness? Or have you unintentionally asked it to work double duty as both purifier and protector against the chaos of unchecked energy? To support this plant is to support your own emotional reset. Keep its area clean. Touch its leaves gently. Give it soft, indirect light. Speak to it not in words, but in action. Clear what no longer resonates. Make space for breath, for rest, for peace. That is its name. That is its power. Who benefits most from this plant? The peace. Lily is not a plant for the hurried. It does not thrive in homes chasing quick fixes or in rooms lined with declarations of hustle. This is a plant for the pause, for the breath between chapters, for the space where something has ended and something else, quietly, gently, is being invited in. It finds its greatest resonance in homes where the air feels thick with unspoken fatigue, or where the atmosphere, no matter how elegant on the outside, has begun to feel emotionally unanchored. It is ideal for individuals walking through the softer, more vulnerable terrains of human experience. The heartbreak that doesn't get talked about anymore, but still lingers in the fabric of the home. The burnout that shows not in action, but in apathy. The grief that doesn't come with tears, but with silence. For these souls, the peace lily is not decoration, it is devotion. A living emblem of emotional surrender and energetic recalibration. In Feng Shui, this plant serves a very specific vibrational field. It does not call in prosperity. It doesn't amplify recognition. It doesn't energize or embolden. It soothes, it listens, it neutralizes. This makes it particularly beneficial for caregivers who spend all day tending to others without spaces that tend to them. For empaths whose boundaries blur so easily, they no longer know where their energy ends and someone else's begins. For healers who hold so much space for transformation that they forget their own nervous systems also need grounding. And for mothers, teachers, counselors, coaches, those whose giving has gone unreciprocated, whose homes may be filled with voices and tasks, but starved for stillness. In all these cases, the peace lily does not demand. It does not dramatize. It simply offers a field of rest, inviting the home and those who live in it to remember what calm feels like. Emotionally, this plant aligns with those who are ready to stop performing their healing and begin embodying Aoed. It holds space not for rapid forward motion, but for intentional release. In a world obsessed with transformation that looks like action, the peace lily is a radical presence. It says you can grow by letting go. And for the person who has been carrying more than they were ever meant to hold, whether it's emotional labor, caretaking weight, or invisible pressure, the peace lily becomes a sacred mirror. It does not push them to be more. It gently reminds them they are already enough as they are in this moment. That restoration, not expansion, is the first layer of abundance. This plant does not deliver its energy in sudden shifts or spectacular displays. It is in many ways the botanical equivalent of a deep exhale after months of holding your breath. Its flowers don't rush to bloom. They unfold when the space is ready, just like healing, just like clarity, just like a life that doesn't just keep moving, but finally begins to mean something again. Enhancements and activations. The peace lily, unlike wealth-attracting plants that crave symbols of expansion, thrives in the presence of subtle activation, supportive elements that mirror its quiet purpose rather than overpower it. When paired with rose quartz, the plant's energy deepens in the direction of forgiveness and softness. Rose quartz doesn't energize in the traditional sense. It harmonizes. It helps unravel the threads of emotional tension, especially those tied to unresolved memories or unspoken grief. When placed next to a peace lily, the two form a gentle dialogue, one absorbing what no longer serves, the other reminding the space that love, in its most unconditional form, is always available. For those whose homes have known heartbreak, whether through loss, conflict, or prolonged silence, this pairing creates a field of emotional neutrality where nothing needs to be fixed, only witnessed. If the focus leans more toward intuitive clearing or spiritual surrender, amethyst becomes the better companion. While rose quartz invites softness, amethyst deepens awareness. It holds space for clarity, guiding stagnant thoughts toward resolution. It doesn't stimulate the room the way some energetic crystals might. Instead, it elevates the room's listening. Together, the amethyst and the peace lily form an invisible architecture for those seeking discernment after emotional fog. Their combined presence encourages internal decisions to arise not from urgency, but from aligned knowing. Once this energetic pairing is in place, weekly rituals become less about doing and more about allowing. Burning a stick of sandalwood or frankincense near the peace lily once a week is not meant to cleanse the plant. It is meant to acknowledge the space the plant has already helped neutralize. These particular scents were traditionally used not to impress the senses, but to clear emotional layers from the etheric body, to lift unseen stagnation and settle the field. Lighting incense near a peace lily reactivates the room's balance in a subtle way, like opening a window in a room that has quietly gathered weight. It's not about fragrance, it's about frequency. You're not just scenting the space, you're reminding it to soften. And finally, the affirmation. Speak this aloud or silently during moments of intentional presence near your plant. I release what no longer serves, and I honor what still wants to grow. This is not a chant, not a manifestation hack. It is a mirror. You don't say it to energize the peace lily. You say it because the peace lily is already doing this work, and your words simply align your mind with the invisible field your plant is helping to hold. In Feng Shui, intention shapes the vibration of space. But with plants like this, alignment matters more than force. You don't need to program the peace lily. You simply need to participate in the kind of emotional hygiene it silently encourages. Final. In Feng Shui, peace is never an accident. It is something you design, something you tend to, something you protect as fiercely as ambition. And the peace lily, in all its quiet posture, holds that frequency without needing to demand it. It doesn't chase attention. It doesn't bloom on command. It simply holds the space for clarity to return. In a world obsessed with doing more, the peace lily reminds us of the sacred act of doing less, but doing it with presence. Not every room needs more effort. Some need more softness. Not every moment asks for action. Some ask for release. And that is where this plant becomes not just a living object, but a teacher. So pause with me for just a moment and ask yourself, where in your home is the noise no longer helpful? Where in your life have you been layering solutions on top of solutions, when what you truly needed was a place to exhale, a place to not be fixed, but to be felt? Maybe that's your office, where clarity has become scarce. Maybe it's your living room, where conversations arrive but rarely land. Or maybe it's your own heart, trying to hold the tension between what you've outgrown and what's quietly waiting to bloom. Wherever that is, the peace lily can hold that space for you, not to solve it, but to soften it. Not to erase the story, but to remind you there's still grace in the space between chapters. I'd love to hear your experience. Drop a comment below. Where in your home does your peace lily live? What has it helped you release? I read every single response, and I treasure the depth, honesty, and insight this community brings with each word shared. This is not just a comment section, it's a circle of restoration. If this video softened something for you, if it reminded you that stillness can be just as valuable as strength, I invite you to share it with someone who might need that same reminder. Maybe they're recovering from a loss. Maybe they're transitioning out of a role, a relationship, or a rhythm that no longer serves. Let them know there is power in pausing, And if you haven't already, I warmly invite you to subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. We are growing slowly and beautifully toward 2,000 subscribers. And your support allows us to continue crafting these spaces of grounded clarity, where beauty is not just what you see, but how you feel when you return home.